This is the film that ate its way onto the video nasties list, literally. In 1980, Italian director Joe D'Amato unleashed Anthropophagous, a bleak, slow-burning horror film that made headlines for one thing: a scene where a man rips open a pregnant woman's belly and eats her unborn child. Released on VHS as The Grim Reaper, the uncut version was banned in the UK under the Obscene Publications Act. Censors were horrified, but horror fans, they were curious. The killer isn't a monster or a zombie. He's a man, shipwrecked, starved, and broken, and what's left of him is a pure, silent madness. This wasn't just gore, it was nihilism on tape, and it made Anthropophagous one of the most infamous horror films of the 1980s. Stick around, we're diving into the rotten core of this cult classic. Few films on the Video Nasties list earn their reputation quite like Anthropophagous. Directed by Joe D'Amato and released in 1980, this Italian horror film became a symbol of everything the moral panic feared: extreme violence, disturbing imagery, and no moral compass in sight. In the UK and the US, the film was released on VHS under the title The Grim Reaper. That first release was uncut, and it's the one that got the film banned. Later versions under the same name were heavily censored, so what you saw back in the day depended entirely on the tape you got your hands on. The plot? A group of tourists head to a remote Greek island and find it eerily deserted. Something, or someone, is hunting them down. That someone is Klaus, a man who survived a shipwreck by eating his own family and never quite recovered. Now he's alive, and still hungry. No supernatural curse, no virus, just a man consumed by trauma and driven by hunger. Joe D'Amato usually trafficked in sexploitation and softcore horror, but here he leaned hard into dread. Anthropophagous is slow, quiet, and empty. The island feels dead. The characters feel disposable. But when the violence comes, it's unforgettable. There are two scenes that made this film infamous. One, Klaus tearing open a pregnant woman and eating her fetus, and two, Klaus disemboweling himself and eating his own guts. These scenes weren't just graphic, they were shocking in concept, and for British censors in the early 80s, that was enough to land the film on the banned list. Critics dismissed it as trash, and to be fair, the acting is flat, the story's thin, and half the runtime is people slowly walking through abandoned buildings. But fans of European horror see something more, a film with genuine atmosphere and a villain that gets under your skin. George Eastman, who also wrote the film, plays Klaus like a feral animal. He doesn't speak, he barely blinks, he just looms, breathes, and kills. It's simple and deeply unsettling. After the ban, Anthropophagous developed a cult following. For years, it was unavailable in the UK in its true form, until finally getting an uncut release in the early 2000s. Today, it's regarded as a cornerstone of nasty-era horror, not because it's well-made, but because it went further than most dared. And if the name Klaus rings a bell, it should. Eastman returned for D'Amato's follow-up, Absurd, playing another silent killer in another over-the-top bloodbath. We've already covered that one in its own episode, so check it out if you haven't yet. Anthropophagous isn't a fun film. It's not even a good one in the traditional sense, but it's one of the few nasties that actually lives up to its name. Ugly, brutal, and totally committed to leaving you disturbed. Whether you call it Anthropophagous or The Grim Reaper, it's still one of the most shocking films ever released on home video. Even now, over 40 years later, it still leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Thanks for watching this look into the movie Anthropophagous, one of the more infamous video nasties to be banned. If you enjoyed this uncut look at the darker side of horror, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Don't miss more Cruel Tapes, our series exploring the more controversial, banned, and brutal films from the video nasties era. Stay sharp, stay fearless, and above all, stay cruel.